Hey, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pennicow.
Psychic Tom Paget with a brand new deck of tarot cards. We'll see what the future holds.
And we have two new fake champions, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Unbelievable little exhibition thing there. There were some good and bad things about it. I really didn't think the music thing was all that great. I don't know, floated some people's boats, but
I thought the music thing was idiotic, personally.
Yeah.
The fights were entertaining.
Fights were very entertaining.
Tony, I have been waiting since Saturday night to ask you about your buddy Vinny Paz and his scoring. Now, has he said anything on Facebook?
He loves Roy Jones, apparently.
It's in that WTF category.
He loves Roy Jones.
You know what? It's funny. Vinny hasn't said much on social media or Twitter. Like, I follow Vinny on Facebook and on Twitter, and he tweets more than he Facebooks. But a lot of the stuff that he tweets are like retweets and responses. So, like, somebody will say, "Hey, Vinny, you're an inspiration." They're like, "Yeah, stay strong," or whatever. His PR. Like, she got pissed off the other day. She's like, "When people stop messaging me, I have nothing to do with the way he judged a fight."
I think he just has a Jones for Roy, basically, to use a pun.
Well, I mean, the guy also beat him too, so
yeah.
It's like,
he wanted him to win. It was very obvious from the way he was scoring, and they showed it. It was open scoring.
Well, I mean, he scored the first two rounds for Roy, and Roy landed 2 punches each round.
Yeah. But the one thing I was very surprised about...
It was just so obvious. I mean,
more than Roy getting that judge card for him and the whole draw thing, I was surprised Mike Tyson threw that many goddamn body shots. What is up with that? There must have been some kind of gentleman's agreement.
I've been watching the fight.
Had to have been.
A couple of my friends were messaging me during the fight, and they're showing the scores round by round. And it's like Christy Martin was going Tyson, and I think she was pretty accurate. So I'm looking at Christy Martin, and that makes sense because she fought a lot of Mike Tyson undercards in the mid-'90s, 96, 97, and all that. She was a Don King fighter when Mike was still with Don King. So Christy shading towards Mike made sense. Vinny had a curious, score for Jones. Like I said, he scored the first 2 rounds for Jones. Jones landed 2 punches each round. So as I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, go in and do it like the 6th round. Vinny has Jones ahead. Martin has Tyson ahead, and the other judge. Oh my God, who was it? I know him too. Fuck. Well, it'll come back to me. But he was sitting there, and he had Tyson ahead, but you could see him going closer and closer to Jones as the fight went on. So we go into the last round, and you looked at the cards. Martin had Tyson ahead by 3 points. Paz had Jones ahead by 3 points. The other judge had Tyson ahead by 1 point. I said to my friend, fight's draw. I said, easy. I said, no matter what happens this round, the swing judge is going to give it to Jones, and it's going to be a draw. Because remember, originally, they didn't even want to do a decision.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like...
Yeah, it was predetermined, I think. But anyway, what was fascinating to me about the whole thing is, number one, the fact that Tyson didn't get frustrated like he normally would when he was missing the headshots, and the fact that he learned to catch Roy off guard, go for the body, catch him in the gut. Yeah. And he actually didn't land more than a handful of punches per round, period. But very little to the head.
He landed some good body shots. He landed a really good left hook to the jaw. He did land a good left hook to the jaw at one point, but you're right. Tyson was more body shots.
It almost seems to me like there had to be like an agreement between the two of them beforehand that he wasn't going to headhunt or something. Like, because they were concerned about their safety or something.
A couple of the things that I said on it was for the commentary for the most part, I really didn't. It was like a hip hop event. You had Snoop Dogg. He had no clue what the hell he was talking about. Now you have Mike Tyson later talking that he smoked a joint in the locker room before the fight even started. Okay, whatever.
That's
but Snoop Dogg, he was sitting there, and I'm like, okay, he's tolerable. Well, the other guy, I don't even know who he was. I'm like, this guy doesn't know shit from a shoelace. I'm like, this is the commentary was painful. They tried to make it almost into like. I'm trying to think of the best word.
Unfortunately, they've gotten the hint that they need to start a new fight league. We got to do that news story soon, but Snoop Dogg, is popular with some people as a boxing commentator, but other people hated him.
He was kind of funny and all that. But here's the thing: like when I'm watching an event like this, you need to cut out all the music BS because I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah.
And I know you had to fill time. Most of these were exhibitions, 6 and 8 rounds. The Tyson fight was 2-minute rounds.
How about Sugar Ray Leonard wanting to fight our former guest, Mauro Ranallo? I thought that was kind of crazy. At one point, he kept saying, I wanted to fight you. I'll fight you when I come back.
What they called that Mauro Ranallo because, he had done wrestling commentary for a while. They're like, Mauro, you're thinking back to your old game here. This is not wrestling. I think Snoop Dogg did have one good one-liner, though, when he's like, Roy, be careful with your ear getting that close to Tyson's mouth. You know what he's done before. That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I think what you need for an event like this, and I know with the whole COVID thing, and no fans there, I know it was challenging. And I think they originally rescheduled it from September. I think part of the reason was they were hoping there would be an unrolling of a vaccine by this time where you could have limited attendance, where they were hoping that the cases weren't spiking like they currently are, unfortunately. So I think that kind of was a little bit of a downer. But I think if they did something like this again, and I just heard Buster Douglas that he'd like to do one of these with Mike Tyson, which I think would be a big sell.
Yeah.
I think what you need...
Tyson Holyfield's next. I guarantee it.
Well, and once again, still a possibility. Because those two would sell. Tyson Holyfield or Tyson Douglas would both sell. I think what you need to get is you've got to get away from that whole, musical BS, because that would turn a lot of people off. Like my dad, if he was home, would not have sat through that. He would have been really annoyed. And I think you need to get...
That's what they're using to draw the young kids in. That's kind of like...
Yeah, exactly.
Counterculture that isn't watching boxing, that they want to bring into boxing somehow. So it's like you got to take the good with the bad.
Young hip hop crowd and whatever.
Because actually, Snoop Dogg is now investing in this. They're going to do this with Triller, the social whatever streaming service there that provided this pay-per-view, and they're going to bring in celebrities from various backgrounds, from breakout social media stars and professional athletes to celebrated musicians and other stars willing to tackle a new venture and enter the world of boxing. So we'll see how that goes. But it didn't work out too well for the undercard guy there, Nate Robinson. And he will forever go down in history as the most memed guy after a sporting event. Oh, poor guy. He got absolutely schooled, and he's lucky. He probably doesn't even realize how lucky he is to not be in a hospital in a coma. They joke. Right. They joke all over the media and everything. And Floyd actually took it personally. He said, don't be making fun of Nate Robinson because, he actually got in the ring in the first place. And most of you that are making fun of him never would.
Right.
It's a point. Good point. You don't go in there with no defense, no meaningful boxing skills, and you don't go in there to any professional event with that little training and experience. And
I can't say much about Jake Paul because I really don't know him, and I don't know how he gets his fame, YouTuber and whatever, and he had the fight with the other guy. And but I know a couple of guys out of the Philly gym. They got all offended, and I don't want to make anything about skin color or whatever, but I think it bothers them because he's white. But he's like, if he would have fought, just like like an amateur Golden Gloves guy. He would have got knocked out, but now he's doing this. And I was like, you know what? You're taking this way too seriously. Is the guy working hard? Yes. I've seen some of his training videos. I saw that one you sent me yesterday when he fought that imitation Drago.
That was his brother.
Joke.
That was Logan. He's
his brother?
0-1. He has one draw to his record. Jake actually has 2 knockouts now. He's 2-0.
Like that, I don't really know these guys mad him, But hey, if the guy's working hard and he's trying to improve his craft, he was setting his feet and he was throwing some big punches. He wasn't just throwing wild, sloppy ballroom brawl haymakers. And the thing is, he wasn't gassed out in 30 seconds either. So this guy is showing that he is, doing somewhat of an effort in there. And for that, you got to give him credit. Also, the other thing I wanted to say about the Tyson fight was I made a comment, and this was more towards Roy Jones. I said it's a good thing they didn't let spectators in the arena that night because, it's the first or second round, Jones was gasping pretty hard, and I said the crowd might have passed out due to lack of oxygen.
Yeah, Jones actually was upset a little bit about the decision. But the funny thing was, when they asked him if he was going to do it again, he gave some different answers. At first he was like, I don't know. I got to talk to my family. And then he also said, those body shots, man, I don't know if I can do that again. And Tyson, in his interview, was almost immediately saying, we're going to do this again, and he's going to be on the undercard. Like, he didn't want to fight Roy again either. He's got to fight somebody else now. Yeah. Which I thought was kind of interesting. They just don't want no part of it, doing it again with each other. But they had some contrasting styles.
Who would want to pay for a rematch? Really, think about it. Who would want to pay to see that again?
Yeah. Well, Roy was really in survival mode more than anything. And Tyson looked really good, but, he never got in range to do what he's most dangerous with. But I was just very surprised that he was willing to trade off for body shots, because I don't remember him being that devastating a body puncher when he was in his prime. He's obviously working with somebody new, so that helps.
No, Tyson hit the body.
Well, yeah, he was good with it, but he didn't use that as his primary weapon, and I don't know, it probably was somewhere between 70 and 80%, I would say.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, when Jones did between two things. Jones was either clinching, where the body shots were right there, or Jones was doing a lot of that awkward type of movement, or he would have his arms down and he'd be waving them and he'd be moving back and forth. Well, when you guys doing that and his whole upper body's moving, go to the part that's not.
It made me think, Tyson is actually about 10 years too late.
Shoulder rolls.
He should have got involved in bare knuckle boxing. Tyson would be great at that, I think. But the problem is he wants these exhibitions. He doesn't want it to be official, professional, anything. He's got to have it exhibitions, and I don't think they do exhibitions.
Okay, well, what do you guys think, though? Are you agreeing with me that these exhibitions? I just don't see the excitement if it's going to be another exhibition like this, because a lot of people say this was preordained. They had an agreement. The judges were in on it, and do we really? If Tyson keeps going, will he have to have a real fight? Or do you think he just wants to keep doing exhibitions?
Well, we'll probably see him knock Holyfield out.
I think it's going to be...
I think they got a grudge.
Well, I think... possible. I think what
he had nothing against Roy.
I think what you're going to see here is you're going to see a combination of people will buy the next one. They bought the first one, and it was out of curiosity.
They didn't even wear headgear. That's a pretty good exhibition.
Names we just mentioned. Yeah, but say it's either Holyfield or Douglas. That's going to sell just because of the whole fight bite thing, and also the guy that could Tyson get the revenge on the guy that upset him 30 years ago, right? So you get those two storylines, and then it's how you deliver. If it turns into more competitive, now I don't think Roy did not want to, even if you're saying it was prearranged, well, could have been. They're wearing 12-ounce gloves. They're doing 2-minute rounds. So Roy was more in the survival mode. He's like, man, this is Mike Tyson. You know, I gotta be on point. You know, it's a bucket list thing. You know, and everybody's afraid for his health. If he goes in there with a Buster Douglas or an Evander Holyfield that try to engage it with him, and punches start landing, well, then you know what? Then guess what? But it all depends on how the next one happens. If it's one of those two fights, it'll sell. If it turns into an action-packed event, then there's more of a market. If it turns into a dud, that's the end of it.
Good point. Very good point.
Right. But we'll see. We're gonna see how good their marketing skills are. Probably better than DAZN with creating these events in the future. But I gotta say, these YouTuber people are definitely bringing new eyes to the sport, and Tyson is giving them a lot more credit than they deserve, I think, because they're also sort of poisoning the sport a little bit by bringing people in who shouldn't be involved in it. And I have to really emphasize this with a story that just kind of came through the grapevine by accident today. This was kind of convenient for my point that I have to make, but, you know, respect, like Floyd said to Nate, for getting in the ring, but you can't forgive a guy for going in with that kind of skill set and that lack of seriousness. And just this week in New Jersey, the story came through today. A state police recruit who was injured in a boxing match just died. 27 years old. Boxing during a training exercise. A guy named Lucas C. Homiger of Boonton, New Jersey, was boxing with a classmate on November 25th at the State Police Academy and died later on.
Well, it just looked like Robinson hadn't trained at all. I mean, he didn't seem to throw a punch. It was just bum wrestle and charge and hold on. I mean, it was just, my God. I mean, you'd think he could at least have tried to set something up. I mean, I've seen guys, and I'm sure you guys have too, in your first amateur fight. You should at least know something, some kind of a stance. I mean, where the hell did he train at? Supposedly they said he'd been training.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it to me.
Those are the kinds of guys that should be wearing headgear, too, because they have such limited experience, you know, and they have no amateur experience, period. No official amateur experience, so.
But you can still throw a jab, or try to. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what?
Obviously, was not prepared.
Revert back to a great Dr. Coxism here. You know, and it's crazy to think about it now, because tonight, not a great memory of mine, but today is the 26th anniversary of my first amateur fight. Not a great memory of mine because I came in tremendously out of shape. I really didn't train hard. And
I know that story.
I could come in there and wing my big left hook and everything would be okay. Well, this guy had more experience than me, and he was about 5 inches taller than me or 6 inches taller than me, and he walked me into about 858 right hands before I finally gassed out and stopped the fight with 10 seconds to go. But I learned, right? So Dr. Cox had a couple great Dr. Coxisms, and he was talking about a guy that can look $1 million in the gym, their blood turns to piss when they get in that ring. And he told some great stories, you know, and he said, like, you know, he would tell stories about guys that, like, once again, looked great in the gym, and then they just got in there and they got in front of people and they didn't know what to do. He talked about one guy that forgot to put his trunks on. He put his cup on and he put his boots on and he put the robe on, and after he was robed up, you know, like, you know, and you know, when you do these amateur shows, Tom, it's like, you know, when you're on a team, like I'm on the Lock Haven team, Dr. Cox and Coach Cooper got 6 guys on the show, you know, so we would all get like our warm-up gear on, and boom. So if I'm the 8th fight of the night, around about number 4, I take my warm-up gear off, I put my cup on, I put my trunks on, I already got my boots on, I'm already taped up, you know, then they put my gloves, and then I might put my robe on first. I usually didn't, but some guys did. Then I would put my gloves on and my headgear's already on and go to the ring. Warm up, go to the ring. Well, apparently this one guy put everything on, including the robe and all that. They gloved him up. He warmed up, got in the ring, took his robe off, and he had no trunks on. You know, they said, like, his blood turned I saw a guy one time. Tom, guy was tremendously talented, but he was a knucklehead. Would not train. If he trained, he could have been great. You know, he's slick southpaw boxer. He's my freshman year, right? Slick southpaw boxer, good skills and whatever. But he always had a problem. You know, it was like, oh, he's missing. Oh, he's got mono. Okay, no, he did whatever. He did our first show of the year. It was like sparring sessions. He did great. I mean, he was boxing around. He was, in the gym looking great. Now he's not fighting. Yeah, now he has mono. Now he's failing a class. Now he's doing this. So finally, Dr. Cox has got to get him a fight to qualify him for the regionals. So I had missed this card because I had the flu. And so they come back. I'm like, hey, how the team? They're like, well, so-and-so won, so-and-so won, so-and-so. Antoine won, and he puked in the ring. What? Antoine had his trunks on. He had his hands taped. He's getting ready to go. Decides to go to the concession stand and get a hot dog. And ate a hot dog 5 minutes before they're putting his gloves on. And they said, as the second round's going, he's winning, but he's starting to labor. And they said, third round ended. Like, they're raising his hand, and he's puking. Dr. Cox said, never on my team again. So you're right. So sometimes, look, I've seen guys that look $1 million, hitting the bag, hitting the pad, and all that. For a sparring session, there was a guy on our team, a great amateur. He was from Lock Haven, so Dr. Cox knew him. He was a standout football player, baseball player, wrestler, all that. So Doc gets him on our team, and he's like, yeah, this kid Mike, he's a great athlete. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. His first sparring session, I worked his corner. He ran out of the corner and looked like he was doing something you would do, like if you're 5 years old playing in a video game. He was like almost like running in place and throwing punches. And the guy he was sparring ended up being a 2-time All-American who would just stand there and wait till he opened up, and he would just counter him with a right hand, and this guy would turn around, grab his nose, and fall on the ground. He'd get up, and they'd give him a count, wipe his gloves off. He'd come running back in, like running in place, throwing punches. And the guy Josh would time him again and punch him in the nose again, and he'd fall down again. And it's like, great athlete, couldn't box. Another guy on our team, George is a very good friend of mine, and I kept this in my mind for when we sparred. George, they said, was another Lock Haven guy, so Doc knew him. High school varsity letterman, baseball, football, wrestling. He could have really got scholarship for anywhere. Wanted to box. Doc said, why do you want to box? If you can get scholarships to school, boxing is a club sport, but he wanted to box so bad. So he joins the team, and George won a few fights, but after every fight, he would be so gassed at the end of it, he would actually go and lay in the locker room for 30 minutes, just lay there, like almost like he was trying to suck all the oxygen out of the building. And I was sitting there thinking, what's his problem? I watch him train. He trains hard, but he was a guy that he got so tense when he got in there, he would hold his breath.
Yeah.
So he's not getting oxygen into his lungs. He's holding his breath. And so whenever I would spar with him, I knew that first round was going to be tough because he was a strong, physical guy, could punch like the Dickens. I'd give up the first round because you know what? He'd never make it. He would not finish the third round with me because then I knew that he was gassing and to pick up the pace really high and run him out of the ring. So, that's with, Nate Robinson there, maybe he did try to learn. Maybe he did try. Maybe he did train. I don't know the guy. I can't speak for him. But he got in there, his blood turned to piss.
Yeah, that was a bad one. Bad example of the YouTubers.
Could bring it back to reality, though. The guy comes back in the end of the first round. Okay, breathe deep. Try to get back to basics. All good trainers do that. We got a round under our belt now. He's going to get that. Come on. It just seems like.
And Tom, and I agree with you 100% on that. And you're right. And it could come down to a trainer to take a guy like that and be able to relax him, calm him down. Hey, let's focus on what we've done. Let's focus on slowing the pace down.
I would pay to watch Conor McGregor fight that guy, Jake Paul, but Conor has to drink two bottles of his own whiskey first. That's the rule.
Oh, well,
Exhibition.
I mean, I know that Nate's a great athlete. I mean, 1 man in a million gets to the NBA.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, and I know boxing's a whole unique thing. I mean, you don't just transfer over the skills necessarily duplicate my magic, but I mean, I was just expecting, as Christy Amato said, between the three big sports, football, baseball, and basketball, if he had his choice, he would prefer someone with a basketball background because he felt they were the best athletes.
Yeah.
Well, we still didn't see that. Wow.
Well, anyway, it generated quite the discussion in meme world, that's for sure. There was like 32 memes by the next day of him laying in the ring. The funniest one I thought was the one where they showed him like in different angles, like still in the ring during the Tyson fight. Like they just left him in there, dude. What's going on?
You know what they had another one for? It was similar to that, and almost the same type of pose. Was when Manny Pacquiao got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez back in, what was it, 2013 or 14 something, and he's face down on the canvas, and then they were like superimposing and photoshopping his body in like different things, and one of them was in the ring, but a wrestling ring, and Hulk Hogan was dropping the leg on him.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Sleeping on mattresses. They actually used it in the military college group today. It was like, there was a joke on senior privates who are, in the military schools, senior privates, they don't give a shit anymore. They're going to graduate, so they don't really do the gung-ho, go to formation thing. So it's like, all right, guys looking for senior privates at formation time. Where are my senior privates? And then it shows the picture. Here's the senior privates. And it's Nate Robinson just laying on one of the military beds. Still asleep. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad when it gets that far and it extends to that many meme groups. Anyway, we got a lot of boxing to cover. We got 2 weeks we missed. It wasn't just fake boxing or amateurs there professionally acting as professionals. We had another fight card that very night. Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce, where we had an equally controversial situation with what's his name there? With Daniel Dubois taking a knee. Did you hear about this? Took a knee.
I did. I didn't see the fight. I did hear about it, and they said it was due to a broken orbital socket, from what I heard. Like I said,
I wasn't surprised. I watched it, and Joyce. I kept wondering why Joyce wasn't using hand much, because he was pretty much one note Johnny, but that jab just was so effective. And Joyce has got a good pop on his punches, and you could see it coming. Dubois had his moments. It was close. It was still anyone's fight, I thought. I mean, Joyce was ahead, but that eye just kept getting worse.
Yeah, his eye was swollen shut at that point. And he's 15-1 now, 14 knockouts. His decision to take a knee prompted former champs David Haye and Carl Frampton to criticize how the fight ended. Haye said he was very unhappy with the way that he took a knee. I never like seeing a fighter take a knee. He said, I think he quit there. I have to be brutally honest. Dubois can still come back, Frampton added. But, it's one of those things, like, sometimes there's a smart way to quit. Sometimes you have to, protect your health. But it's boxing's unwritten rule. You never quit.
Knock him for that. I would never knock him for that, because we don't know what he was feeling.
Yeah.
And it was he just could not seem to stay out of that jab, out of the way of it. I mean, he didn't seem to have much strategy for it, and it was just chopping a big tree down. So.
All right, we had a guy that claimed to be the real Floyd Mayweather, as far as the undefeated record. He was a minimum weight fighter, Juan Heng Menayothin. He finally lost. He was 54-0 until Friday morning. Thai fighter Panya Pradabsiri was the guy who beat him. His first professional defeat in a staggering 55 outings. And he criticized Floyd, saying he wasn't really the 50-0 champion because he finished his career 50-0 months before Menayothin matched and then surpassed that mark, obviously getting up to 54-0. But he recently signed with Golden Boy Promotions, and a United States debut was in the works for next year. But Floyd Mayweather always laughed at the comparison. He said, I'm 50-0 for a reason. Right now they got a fighter that's over in Asia that's 54-0, and they say this is the new TBE because he's about to retire. I said, y'all telling me about this fighter that fought one world champion? He's 54-0 and only beat one world champion. This is who y'all are trying to call TBE? Okay, y'all are some comedians. Speaking of exhibitions, Floyd will be in Japan in 2021 to be on the card of a Mega 2021 MMA event at the Tokyo Dome, February 28th of next year, according to reports. Unless Corona stops it, he's going to earn $9 million. Why fight for real? You earn $9 million in an exhibition. Peculiar move by Claressa Shields over the weekend. Speaking of boxing. She decided to go with the Professional Fighters League for her MMA championship run. Which is very odd to me, considering her next boxing match is going to be promoted by the UFC. With their Zuffa boxing bullshit that they're supposed to be trying to start. And she had discussions with the UFC, obviously, about going into MMA. So I wonder if they told her, don't start at the UFC, start at a smaller league and then we'll pick you up later. Or if she just likes the tournament format more of, winning the $1 million at the end. Because she actually said, first, I want to be a true sport champion. And then second, came out and said, well, really, it's about the money. Because there's just no money in boxing for females. It's all in MMA. She says, actually, boxing is sexist, was her quote. And men are being paid significantly more than she is, despite being the fastest fighter, male or female, to win world championships in 3 different divisions. And, she signed a contract Tuesday to join the Professional Fighters League. She also said she was influenced by Kayla Harrison, winning the $1 million top prize twice. She said, Kayla, I watched all her fights. She had a chance to fight for $1 million before I had a chance to fight for $1 million in boxing, and I've accomplished everything there is to accomplish in boxing. Boxing is so sexist. These men are fighting for multiple millions that haven't accomplished half of what I accomplished. But I'm supposed to be just happy. Just be happy, like, yeah, go ahead and pay me $300,000 and then offer me $150,000 for the next fight.
Well, you know what? Maybe she's not a draw.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna say what her big problem is. And it worked for, and maybe this is gonna sound sexist. It worked for, a male captain, Floyd Mayweather. That like Claressa Shields comes off as, very unlikable.
Arrogant, yeah.
I've seen her in
arrogant, proud, but arrogant.
Very, very arrogant. I saw her at a fight fan convention in Vegas last year, the one that I did that little broadcast live from when you got me the press pass. And she got up in the ring, and she just seemed like she was very standoffish. I mean, I only had time to get in a few lines. She was not at the top of my list. It just seemed very standoffish. And she's done the interviews. She had the thing with her trainer, like attacking another trainer. So you're very unlikable. But Floyd Mayweather built that into a character. Where Floyd was a villain, but he was charismatic. And maybe his fights weren't always entertaining, but they were very stylish. Where her fights are very stylish as well, but I can't call her fights entertaining at all. And, and she's unlikable. So maybe if she was able to build on that where people want to see her lose, That's how you make your money. You know, hey, pro wrestling has this formula down for the last 100 or so years. The good guy, bad guy formula. You know, Hulk Hogan's going to wrestle the Iron Sheik. The Iron Sheik just beat the All-American boy Bob Backlund and took brand, and we need somebody to bring the title back to America. And here comes out a guy to, Eye of the Tiger, and it's like, you built it up, good guy versus bad guy. It's sold, right? The Sheik made his fortune being the unlikable guy, being the bad guy. Sometimes we need the bad guy.
Tony, what we need, is two. And the problem with Shields, she doesn't really, any of her opponents, hardly anyone knows who she's fighting.
Exactly.
Women's boxing is just essentially on life support. To me, it seems.
And part of it, you are exactly right. Is like, you might get like lightning in a bottle. You might get like a Christy Martin in there, and she fought some good opponents. She fought that Deidre Dougherty. He was a tough opponent. They were going to try to set up the dream fight with her and Lucia Riker, which would have been a great fight. She moved up. She fought Layla Ali. Layla Ali fought Jackie Frazier. So these were big names. They were talented women, and they were big names.
Well, the other thing with Claressa, too, I think that obviously...
I want to watch Christy Martin fight again. Yeah. Nobody talks about her because, she's not interesting. Out of the outside circle, if I went to 100 of my friends right now, people that are maybe even casual boxing fans, I'll be at the tree lot tomorrow with 4 or 5 guys that watch fights. They only watch, really name fights. And I'd say, who's Claressa Shields? I guarantee none of them will know. One guy might know because he might read a press release about her going MMA, and that's the only reason.
Well, the thing about Claressa...
you've got to have those big feuds,
She's wanting to do both sports at once, too, which there have been very few people who have been able to pull off. I think Heather Hardy's the last one I've heard of actually still crossing over, still doing both. But she wants to maintain championships in both at the same time. I'm guaranteeing that probably was one of the picking points why she didn't go with the UFC right away. But if she falls in love with MMA and sticks with it, I think she'll leave boxing because of the whole, comments about sexism and all that. And like she said, she's already done everything she needs to do there. Who's going to call her out except Layla Ali and then never have a fight? So, I don't know. That's probably the only thing that could bring her back. And another note, before I forget, I got to say, Anderson Silva, Roy Jones Jr. could be on the undercard of the next Tyson exhibition. Because Anderson Silva's a free agent now, and the Dana White's not stopping him. He's telling him he shouldn't fight again, but he's not going to stop him. He's not going to be able to. So he's always wanted to do that. It's obviously a little too late to be, entertaining, probably. It's not going to work out well for him. I think Roy would win that fight, but, yeah. I think people would tune in just for the spectacle of it. It's an idea. Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's still retired, not coming back, but wants to be having us look to 2028 to get MMA into the Olympics. He believes that it has big chances to be in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, and he says it's going to be one of his prime tasks for the next couple of years. He's already working in that direction. He's going to be setting up a meeting soon with the International Olympic Committee president, and obviously that's a tall task. But if you got nothing else to do, and you're lobbying on behalf of one of the most competitive countries in the Olympics, chances are good you could get something done. Danny Garcia fighting this weekend. This is an interesting idea. He already wants to basically start a company in his post-fight career that will bring a white-collar mentality to a blue-collar pursuit, he says. Obviously, he's from Philly. And, he knows what it's like coming up as a professional fighter. He's been there. And he says, fighters don't really think about the year-end taxes, their mortgages, their pensions, all the facets, in other words, that are associated with the mainstream but are considered beyond the pale of the industry. He said, when I'm done boxing, I want to start a firm that helps boxers do their taxes and create a 401k plan. That's like my real goal, teaching them about tax brackets, teaching them about health insurance. Say, Tom, you need to apply for a job there.
Yeah.
How about that? How about doing the taxes for all these guys? That'd be great. Be like, who do you got for taxes this week, Tom? We need somebody to interview.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. It would be a labor of love.
So Garcia is taking on Errol Spence, undefeated, 26-0. Errol Spence Jr. with 21 knockouts this weekend on Fox pay-per-view in Arlington, Texas. And Garcia also, he's 36-2 with 21 knockouts. He currently has investments in 8 properties in the Philadelphia area and in a few stocks. And believe it or not, he credits books by Donald Trump and Warren Buffett for informing his budding business sensibility. Says 90% of the millionaires in the world are from real estate and only 1% of the world is millionaires, said Garcia, who fits right into that 1%. That's crazy, so I'm going to go with the real estate and the stocks for my long-term income. So, that's what big need in boxing is the financial aspects of it, and we talked to that Clark guy that wrote the book on Protect Yourself at All Times, Adrian Clark. Kind of went into, your $1 million payday is not really your $1 million payday as a boxer. There's a lot that comes out of it. You got certain percentages for the sanctioning and licensing fees. You've got your blood work. You've got your taxes. You've got your trainer fees, your transportation. Unbelievable amount of stuff gets taken off. If you're a guy like Rocky Marciano, it's just a flat 50% of everything. Depends on what kind of deal you signed. It could be worse for some fighters than it is for others. But, at the end of the day, you do all the work and you get a percentage of the money that's pretty small. It is what it is. But anyway, so basically, Garcia wants people to invest smart with their money, especially boxers. He says, I want to build a solid foundation so that when a fighter comes to me with $1 million, I can say, look, this is for taxes, this is for 401ks, this is how much you're going to be spending this year, this is for health insurance, and then in 10 years you keep building up. That's what it will be. That's like one of my business ideas, so hopefully nobody beats me to the race. Well, you just advertised yourself there. Why not? I think people want to join him more than beat him to the race. Also, wills and all that, trusts. Fighters don't really have that stuff. They don't have an estate. They don't have life insurance. They don't have none of that. I guarantee you that's what I want to do. Help set you up with a solid foundation. Even if another fighter's listening to this, maybe they can learn from this. You know what I mean? So there you have it. And another thing about the Roy Jones-Tyson fight that we saw posted on John Scully's page the other day, I saw John Scully, according to Tyson, if you got a number, you need a number. John Scully's got it. Did you see that clip? Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
John was loving that. See Scully, he got the number. Also, over the last week and 2 weeks, we had not had the show. We had Conor Benn on the 21st beating Sebastian Formella, a big tough test for him. A relative there of Nigel. Daniel Jacobs also got another win under the radar. We didn't really talk about that. Over Gabriel Rosado. Split decision.
I was expecting so much more out of that fight. Like, a lot more out of that fight. I got home, like, my Black Friday lot. I got home at, 10:30, whatever-ish, and I turned it on, and they were just about to start the first round. They were just literally the bell was ringing. I said, okay, good. Grab me a drink, and grab a quick bite to eat. And I started watching. I'm like, okay, Jacobs is boxing early, kind of like what he did against Canelo. And I'm like, and Rosato's not really pressing the action. They're kind of looking at each other. Well, the insides of my eyelids look really good right now. Okay, now I'm going to be okay. I'm going to see this fight. I'm going to watch this fight. Boy, these guys aren't really doing much. Boy, them eyelids really look good. I mean, let me look at them again. That's great. I look down at my phone, and I'm like, all right, we're in the 4th round now. Boy, not a lot's happening. 7, 8, 9, 10, you're out. It's over. What do you mean the fight's over? Oh, wait, no, I just fell asleep. I'm sorry. But no, it wasn't, an entertaining fight. And the ring announcer actually announced Rosado as the winner from, I saw the picture, like, and the winner from Philadelphia. And then Rosado's raised his hand. He's like, oh, wait. No, never mind. And, I saw some of Gabe's posts on social media because I do follow him on Facebook. And he's like, we came in there with a game plan, and we neutralized what he wanted to do. But neither guy seemed like they wanted to put the pedal to the metal.
Uh-huh. Wow. We got some fights coming up this week, and mostly the Danny Garcia card here. But I'm just looking at BoxRec here. Got some interesting ones. There's a Russian.
Well, I do want to give a quick breakdown on the Garcia fight, and then I do want to run this by Tom and get his feedback on it. You have constant variables going into fights, and I think your constant in this fight are you have Spence is a southpaw, and he's got tremendous skills. He's got good vision. He sees punches well. He puts his punches together very well. He's got good power. I talked to a referee that refereed one of his fights, and he said he's called the Truth for a reason. He's undefeated. That's a constant. Garcia, I think, is a little bit slower. Garcia sometimes has a tendency to sit on his hands, and he does get outworked. That's the reasoning, I believe, behind 2 of his losses to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. But Garcia also has a tremendous chin. I've seen him get wobbled maybe twice, and he took a flush shot from Thurman that should have not.
I think he's going to be the physically bigger guy, too.
He, shook it.
He's definitely...
Yeah, he shook it right off. So now you got your constant of Spence's skill on Garcia's chin and left hook punching power. Now here's the variable. The variable is going to be Spence's recovery from that car accident, because you can look great in the gym and you can say you're at 100%. Hey, a guy like Vinny Paz came back from a broken neck in a car accident, where a guy like Joey Camacho was in a car accident, and you could tell he was never the same. So, could maybe, and like I said, I don't know the extent of Spence's injuries. I know they were pretty significant. Maybe it was something like a leg injury. Maybe he had like a broken ankle fused. For argument's sake, I have to look into it more in depth. But maybe that would take a shade of his foot speed away, or a shade of his leg strength where he can't push off that back foot to, get as much leverage into a punch. Maybe he can't move laterally as well as he used to. That's not seemingly out of the question. So if the fight is on where both guys are 100%, I think you have to favor Spence, likely by unanimous decision, something along the lines of maybe like a 116, 112, 117, 111. He's a little faster, he's younger, he's more athletic. Garcia absolutely has a puncher's chance. We've never really seen Spence get tugged with a good shot. Maybe Spence has a glass jaw. And if he loses a shade of his reflexes because maybe he can't move as well as he did pre-accident, and that jaw gets clipped where it wouldn't have got clipped 2 years ago. Maybe he gets knocked out. If all was 100%, I think Spence wins unanimous decision. It all comes down to the variable of his recovery from that injury.
Yep. That's a big one.
And Danny has got to get off quicker. He's got to get off quicker. He can't actually do that sleepwalking early on because, like you said, if you look at those losses, the first 3 or 4, sometimes even the first half of the fight, it seems like he was holding back. Now, he has addressed that, even though his stance is the opposite sometimes. I just read those interviews. He'll try to talk, and he doesn't get a word in edgewise. But it takes us time to get warmed up. But Danny knows that he can't sleepwalk. And you're right. It's just that kind of a question, because if Spence is 100%, you've got to go with him by decision, because Danny does have a cement chin. I mean, what iron is in his chin? Concrete. So I would have to agree with that, but I just have a feeling Danny's going to push him. And we don't know about Curry. We don't know about any of this kind of stuff. So many answers. So I can't wait. I just can't wait.
Well, we also have a nice mismatch of the week this week. A guy we used to write a lot about back in the day, not so much recently. A guy from Israel, actually. It doesn't have his age on this page. I wish it did, but his BoxRec profile says he's 34-3 with 10 knockouts, three losses by knockout as well, all 3. And his last fight was against Arislandi Lara back in 2017. He got knocked out. Can you guess who the fighter is, Mr. Rain Man? That I'm talking about, or do you need another clue? He's from Israel.
Yeah, throw me another clue.
He's from Israel. That's a big clue.
Israel, shit.
But he has a Russian name.
God.
First name.
Russian first name. It's not Dimitri Salida, is it?
No. Think why.
Okay.
Why? Yuri Foreman. Yuri Foreman.
Yes, because I remember I always used to get those two confused, Yuri Foreman and Dimitri Salida. And, I remember Yuri, because Yuri Foreman's the one that blew out his knee that time against Miguel Cotto.
Yeah. Yeah, tough guy.
I always would mix those two.
So he's fighting a guy this week who is, let's see, let me find it again. This is in Louisville, Kentucky. For some reason, he's on this card. He's 34-3 at super welterweight, fighting a guy named Jeremy Ramos, who's only 11-9, with 4 of his last 6 ending in the losing column there for him. So this is obviously a tune-up fight for Yuri, who hasn't fought in 3 years. And there is a Jesus fight of the week also on the same card in Kentucky here. Where actually was the national championships that I went to for boxing, so I should be making fun of Kentucky. Wasn't in Louisville, though, I don't think. Anyway, Jesus fight is Jesus Almonte, and he doesn't need a miracle Jesus here, because he's 8-2-2 fighting a guy named Thomas Miller, who's only 6-4, so he's got a pretty good chance of pulling out the win here. And then we go to the big fight card. Errol Spence Jr. coming in at a whopping 26-0. But obviously has the unknown factor of how well did he recover from the incident with his sports car. And he had extensive facial injuries too. So, we're talking broken teeth and, a lot of stitches and could factor into cuts. There's just a lot of variables here.
And a lot of people don't understand, and you're right, it's a lot of variables, and a lot of people don't understand that not only does it take a lot out of you, physically, but it takes a lot out of you mentally. If you go back and you watch the Vinny Paz movie, Bleed for This, and if you go back and you watch the scene when he first spars, first time. And he couldn't get nobody to get in the ring with him because they were all afraid of hitting him. And so the guy that he eventually got to spar with him in reality, was Sucre Ray Oliveira, who was one of my favorite fighters to watch. He was a, good friend of Iceman John Scully's. He's one of those, Connecticut, New England guys, always on for a good fight. And they used to train a lot together up there. So he was going to spar with Sucre Ray Oliveira, who was played by one of our former guests. The hell was that guy's name? Jesus Christ, I'm forgetting everything. The Rain Man's brain damage is coming through. La Bamba. It was played by, I think, Edwin Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez either played Ray Oliveira or he played Roberto Duran. He played one of the two parts. But the first time, so Vinny gets in the ring, and Vinny's Vinny. He's running, he's bouncing, and Ray doesn't want to hit him. Ray's like, looking, he's like, come on, man, hit me. And then finally, Ray lands a punch, boom, everybody stops, and they gasp. And then Vinny stops, and he shrugs his neck one way, shrugs it the other way, he goes, yeah, I'm okay, let's go. But what's going to happen, how was Errol Spence in sparring, and how is he going to be when he gets hit without the headgear on? So
you got to give him a lot of credit, because if Danny's not the hardest puncher in that division, he's right up there in the top 2 or 3. And he may be the hardest puncher in that division. So you've got to really give
Danny's only
credit.
really lost to very aggressive, in-your-face fighters, who are willing to get into slugfests. And a guy who's coming off, such a long period of inaction and all kinds of personal issues and, injury, recovery and all that. It's going to be tough for Errol Spence to be the more aggressive fighter in this one, I think. So I really like Danny Garcia. I'm going to say late knockout. What's my prediction?
Well, Rich, I was looking at the odds today. Spence is minus 400. Danny's plus 225, I think.
I should bet on it.
And if I were a betting man, I like those odds for Danny. I mean, Danny is no cheap date.
No,
for sure. And I just like Danny's mental approach. So I was watching one of the interviews, and he just seems like he's really where he needs to be mentally.
Right. Yeah. So and Tom, we had him on as a guest, before you were our co-host. This was probably back in 2008, right after he turned professional, because we used to joke when we get a lot of guests, almost like 3 out of every 4 weeks we had a guest, and one of the things we would always say was we would get 2 brands of people. We would get people that were either just coming up and they want to talk to anybody. Hey, I want to get my name out there. Danny Garcia had just turned pro. He might have been 1-0, maybe 2-0, and we just happened to get through to him somehow through a social media. It might even through MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace. We got a lot of them at the beginning.
I think it was.
By the way,
so we got Danny.
Roy Jones Jr. interview was 9 years ago, December 1st. 9 years ago was that was our
really?
show.
Yeah. Yes.
Still on Blog
And
Talk
you know
Radio.
what? It was funny because I remember I had just posted. It came up with my Facebook memories because it was like a Thursday night and the Eagles were playing and they were doing atrociously. And I remember saying, I have a choice. I could either watch the Eagles game or I could interview Roy Jones. I think I made the right call.
Yeah, it was good. And we actually had his trainer, Tom Yankello, on the same show. He was fighting then. He was actively fighting. And not just pushovers from his own promotion at that point. He was fighting, really tough guys. I mean, it was Dennis Lebedev he was getting ready to fight at that point.
Yeah, because we were fighting quality opponents, even at cruiserweight up until about 13 or 14, We would interview them probably around, would you say 2011?
Yeah.
9 years ago?
9 years ago.
We would get guys, like we got Danny when he was just coming up, and he was, 1-0, maybe. We had a few of the guys, or we would get guys that were maybe not fighting anymore, and they just wanted to, talk about their careers. Like, I met Vinny Paz at a fight card, and I offered him a chance to come on the show, which was like a dream come true for me. Never thinking, he was, going to jump all over it like that. And I gave him, a card that I had made on my computer, and I gave him, I wrote my number on it, and a week later he calls me, and I'm like, oh my God, Vinny Pazienza's calling me. I'm like, are you serious? and he's like, yeah, I'll do the show. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. And we booked him. And then and then we were talking a lot about his career and, a lot about like his family and the broken neck and things that he's done. And then then we're getting guys like Riddick Bowe, Ray Mercer. Ray Mercer was still fighting at the time. We had Roy Jones. We were getting guys that maybe were not in the limelight like they were. And, they still want, they're part of like the egos there. It's like, I was like at one point, like everybody wanted to talk to me. It's like now it's like, you feel like you're fading a little bit, and you still want, you get a chance to do an interview like that, and it's like, yeah, people still do care about me. And I think that's one of the great things about a sport like boxing is, maybe not to like the casual fans, the hardcore fans, yes, but the casual fans, they forget guys, even some of your bigger names. And I'm going to give you a quote that was from Creed 2. If you go back and you watch that movie, after he wins the title from the Andre Ward character, and that's when he gets called out by the young Drago character, and the promoter that's trying to put it together sees him at a nightclub where his wife is singing, and he's like, you just talk to anybody in this nightclub right now. These people, obviously, they're going to know you because you're the champ of the world. Because you talk to anybody in this nightclub and you ask them to name 5 heavyweight champions of the world, they might be able to, or they says name heavyweight champions, they might be able to name 5. He's like, you got to do something great when you have the chance to be immortalized. Guys like the Alis and the Fraziers, the Marcianos, the George Foreman, the Mike Tyson, those guys are immortalized. So no matter where, they're always going to be popular. But then you take other guys like Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe, most fans today are not going to know who he is. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. He gets on there.
He's the guy who wanted to fight me when we interviewed him. That's who Riddick Bowe is.
Yes.
That was one of my greatest moments. I want to fight you, he says. Right in the middle of the interview. Oh, that was the first time that ever happened. I want to fight you. It was like Sugar Ray Leonard the other night. And somebody mentioned on Facebook or Twitter, no, it must have been Facebook, that Riddick Bowe should be on the list of next opponents for Mike, and I was like, yeah, Riddick Bowe, I don't think so. I don't think he's in any condition to fight again.
I heard Lennox Lewis wanted to go play with Riddick Bowe.
Yeah, that's what it was. Lennox Lewis, maybe, but I know Lennox Lewis still rides the bike. He still keeps in shape.
Not Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe.
And left in a very good condition, in good health, and can speak clearly. Riddick Bowe, not so much.
That's why someone's saying they should have the Lennox Lewis Riddick Bowe fight now. I'm like, no way, Riddick would get hurt.
Yeah. I don't want to see that.
I mean, he was on Family Feud not that long ago, and he had to have a stool with him because he could barely stand up.
Yeah, not going to happen. And that guy, when he fought in the kickboxing thing in I don't know what country, he went to some other country and decided to do kickboxing and just got his legs completely taken out, like, within seconds.
Right, I remember that.
That was horrible. That was right before we interviewed him. We was going to be going into that, I think, next. That was just like, ugh. That was a bad one.
Yeah.
Anyway, undercard on the rest of this pay-per-view for this weekend. We have super welterweights. Sebastian Fundora, 15-0-1, fighting Habib Ahmed, not Habib from the corner store. 27-1-1. Also, Eduardo Ramirez, 23-2-3. That's kind of an interesting record. Fighting Miguel Flores, who is 24-3 with no draws. And then, if that's not enough big names, we have Josecito Lopez, 37-8, fighting Francisco Santana, who's 25-8-1. We got the undefeated Sakaria Lucas, 23-0, fighting Isaac Avalar at super featherweight, who is 16-2. And it's not that much of an interesting fight, but I gotta love this guy's name, Tyrone Lucky, and he's gonna need to be lucky, even though it's spelled with a K-E-Y at the end, because his record is 12-12 with 4 draws, and he's fighting the guy who's 11-0, Frank Martin. And also this one we should mention, because we've been promoting all this guy's prior fights. Vito Mielnicki Jr., 6-0, fighting Stephen
high school kid.
Pulliam, 5-2. And he's the son of a promoter.
He's still in high school, isn't he?
Vito Sr. is a promoter in the sport. And
my old
his kid for a little while.
Buddy Fred, being my college teammate, had a photo of Vito posted today, wishing him luck. And he goes, he's a kid. He's literally a kid. He's 17 or 18. But hey, the kid's got a little bit of talent, So
yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. And then we got to go to MMA.
Hey, Rich, I was going to ask you, do you know if they're still allowing fans at this show?
I don't. I have no idea.
So each state is different now.
It's supposed to be at Arlington
because originally
Stadium,
it was going to be at Texas Stadium, right?
Yeah. I don't know if Texas has any restrictions.
And that's what, like 100,000 people? I don't know either.
Restrictions are.
So,
but you got to imagine that, with all the panic, and they're saying this is going to be the darkest winter in history, human health history, that, they're going to start shutting things down again. So sports is going to take a big hit. The concerts and the music industry is probably taking a bigger hit. Not so much the main acts, because they can just put out records. But, the smaller acts that depend on shows.
Here's what I'm like, because I read, like I said, I read pharma journals every day. Every day when I'm at my work laptop, I always have, links to pharma journals, because you figure right now, for the last 7+ years, I've worked for health insurance, deductibles, co-pays, emergency rooms, all that shit, claims, benefits. That's what I do now. So obviously we're at the forefront of, a lot of COVID stuff, and Independence Blue Cross is one of the biggest in the country, one of the biggest blues. And so, I read shit every day. But then also for 10 years, I worked at a medical market research company where I did a lot of, scheduling, hospital journals or hospital briefings for medical education and stuff, where we would have experts come in and do these large grand rounds conferences on different topics like Crohn's disease and breast cancer and lung cancer and XYZ and all that. So, so for years, we would always just read and be on the forefront of what was breaking in the pharma industry, just try to help us gain more business.
Right.
So, hey, something new is breaking, a new advance on Crohn's disease. Let's see if we can get this pharmaceutical company on the phone and give us a grant to do these briefings. So, it's just a force of habit to read these things. And, yeah, you're right. We are in, the darkest of dark right now. Because, they're saying we lost 2,000 people alone yesterday. 2,000 alone yesterday in one day. And, the hospitals are at capacity. We got to cancel all these events. But the vaccine is approved. Or it's about to be approved. The one it's approved. But the first ones we can get.
They've been using the Russian vaccine for months. Already.
Yeah, well, which is a lot bigger than we are.
Yeah.
But you figure we can start with 10 million people. Yeah. And then you have other people. Well, I don't trust vaccines, and I don't trust the government. Well, here's the thing. There's 3 people, and 2 of them get it. Then the third person can't transmit it to them, and they can't get it to transmit it to the third person. So, so by the end of the year, we should have maybe 6% of the country started.
Yeah.
Not a lot, right? But at the start,
right.
They're saying, well, what about the side effects? The one guy in the trial was like, well, the only side effect I had, I have a little bit of pain in my arm, and for a day, probably going to have severe hangover. I'm like, shit, I call that Saturday.
All right.
Hangover. Pish posh. So now I'm sitting there, hey, so now it's like, I'm sure You know, like, I'm surprised that we've gotten through 12 weeks of the NFL season. I really am.
Oh, yeah. That's a big surprise.
You know, it's like, you know, how are we going to go when it goes to the playoffs? What are they going to do for the Super Bowl? You know, because by that time, it's still in February. You know, and
now they're wearing masks on the sidelines. That's new. That's
by February, because, you know, the Super Bowl is a big deal. You know, it's usually a packed arena or a packed stadium, and they have this big halftime act. You know, they have all this going on, so you know you're not going to be able to have that, and you know you're not going to be able to have the big halftime act like you normally do. So what are you going to do? Virtual shit. And by that time, by February, you figure maybe 1/4 of the country will have the vaccine.
Yeah.
You know, because you figure 2 will be approved by that time, and the third one should be approved by around the new year. And say each of them by the new year could do 10 million people. So now you're up to 30 million. That's 1/10. So then, but you're going to keep producing. You know, they're going to keep producing as fast as they can. And all the different countries are saying, yeah, I want to buy so many, I want to buy so many. England has bought so many that, shit, by the new year, they might have the whole country done.
Right.
You know? They'll go, well, what about those smaller countries? Spend for yourself. Well, they might not have the money to buy them, then give them to us. You know? But no, I'm not saying to be a dick, but, you know, I want to see what happens by, what is the Super Bowl this year, like February 3rd?
Yeah.
4th? I don't know. Somewhere in there, you know. What do you are now 2 months from that. You are exactly 2 months away from that. You know, you're looking at the darkest winter possible. But, like, I know Dr. Fauci said the other day, we are looking at a real bleak time right now, but help is on the way.
Yeah.
So he's just saying, be smart, don't be stupid, you know, keep doing the shit that you've been doing, you're just getting too lax. But what pisses me off is, like, people want to always cast the blame. Like, people say, well, it was all like a lot of your far left will say it's all because of Trump supporters' faults. They went to rallies or they advocated voting in person, and it's because of them that the thing is spreading. But it's not our fault for dancing in the streets when Biden won.
Yeah, all the protests and bullshit over fucking defund the police.
Yeah, all the protests during the summer, they're like, yeah, but a lot of those people wore masks. Well, a lot of them didn't.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're protesting? When you're at an event, you're at a sporting event, you're at a concert, you're at a protest, you're at something where you want to yell loud, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're chanting, you're singing, you're doing all that, you are spitting. It's a fact.
Exactly.
You know? You know, especially when you're doing something in anger. You know, if I'm in an Eagles game right now and I'm doing the E-A-G-L-E-S Eagles chant, yeah, I might be loud, but if I'm yelling, God
just had a thought.
You Bob, can't you make that fourth down? I am more likely to spit in anger.
I wonder if they would be pissed instead of wearing a face mask into the store if you had one of those riot shields. Like for the protests, yeah. Clear riot shield. I want to see that. Somebody do that for a YouTube video. I got a mask right here, like a riot shield.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know, and you guys know me. You guys know I like to bring humor into a lot of things. That's what I do. That's kind of like my coping mechanism in life. And when I made my Facebook post back in October, I had to put a disclaimer on there so I didn't get a lot of shit over it, you know, which I thought would have been kind of ridiculous. But, you know, we went out to dinner one night, and then we went to a Spirit Halloween, you know, right at the same shopping center. And when we went in there, I wanted to take some photos because, you know, we have my nephew Dominic, and so we go in there, and as a joke, I had my mask on, but I had also brought a Jason mask that I bought the previous year, and I wore that. And so I got my Jason mask on, and you know, I posted some photos of him with Dominic, and he took his little mask off, and I had my Jason mask on. And I said, listen, people, I said, before you give me any shit on this, we let Dominic take his mask off to take a photo. I am wearing a mask, a hockey mask, and it's not just a random hockey mask that I picked up off the shelf and put on. It was one that I purchased a couple of years ago, and I brought with me. So don't give me any bullshit, you know?
People can not see
we're doing our Christmas tree light right now, and we're outside. We'll wear masks. Like I ordered a couple Christmas ones that I'm waiting to show up. Hopefully tomorrow. Say something like ho ho ho. A little bit like 2020 ho ho ho. Horrible. Then another one with like a reindeer wearing a mask. Another one with a tree made of toilet paper rolls. So I'll be wearing all those because you got. And then of course I got an Elvis Christmas one. But it's tough.
This is going to be one of the biggest years for Christmas tree sales because so many people are stuck inside or wanting to, stay inside, and there being such little things to do.
I'm going to say from doing it for 1 week. For 1 week so far this year, we got our shipment in on Wednesday. We started selling them on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Black Friday the 1 year, Thanksgiving was early. We sold 11 trees. The average on Black Friday is 28, which is what I think we did last year.
Yeah.
This year, we sold 57 on Black Friday.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. That's trending.
On opening weekend.
Trending up. Everybody wants to celebrate early, too, they said, because, it's like ushering out the new year, ushering in the new year sooner. The sooner we get to Christmas and celebrate it, the sooner the year will be over.
Christmas is supposed to be fun, to be positive. Normal weekend average, maybe 90 to 100 trees on the opening weekend, Black Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This year we were at 110, about 200 in those 3 days.
Wow.
Now, tip-wise, I looked at my calendar from last year, and I am already at about $300 in tips. Last season, I made $691 total.
There you go.
I'm already almost half of that.
Halfway there.
I'm going to work tomorrow. It's Saturday. We're getting our second shipment in. It's probably going to rain, but you know what? People will be there. I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to do everything. I want to send you guys some photos. We did Christmas. We did the Santa visit for Dominic last week. He told me 2 weeks ago he wasn't going to cry. He lied.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Because when I took the phone call from Santa, I was like, "Yeah, Santa, what's up? Yep, we're here. We're all waiting." You see his eyes get real big. And I snuck out, changed, and went to the other door. And the little girl that was there was excited. He was like, "Oh shit!" And they came over. But he was trying to say cheese while he was crying, which was actually kind of hilarious. But you're right. We're trying to do something positive. We're trying to get through this year. We're trying to, I'm trying to find humor in it somehow. And I'm if you don't, because you're right. Are we in something that is very dangerous right now? Absolutely. I got, family members that have medical issues. I have an aunt and uncle that won't let people in their house because they're both very high risk. So I understand, their fear. We had to cancel Thanksgiving. I ended up getting a Thanksgiving stromboli, which was good. So I appreciate all that. But at the same time, you got to look at the other side of it. You got to look where maybe some people are isolated, and there's depression, there's anxiety. People that are not getting human connection or having suicidal thoughts, addiction. Abuse. Maybe somebody's stuck in a house with an abusive family member, whether it's a parent or a spouse. You got to look at those things as well. You're trapping someone almost in like a prison.
Right.
Hopefully help them soon.
Tough times. All right, well, we got to wrap it up with a couple of UFC fights here. Last weekend, we had Anthony Smith beating Devin Clark. The main event got canceled. COVID. Derek, what's his name? Lewis, against, I don't have it right in front of me, but, Blades? Curtis Blades or something like that. Anyway, yep, so one of them got COVID and they had to cancel it. But Anthony Smith moved up to the main event and did not take even a single round to finish out Devin Clark. He got it done in 2 minutes and 34 seconds. A triangle choke submission. And he looked really good. Looked much improved. But I definitely did not play this right on FanDuel. Because again, you had to have an $8 guy, and the least expected guy to be that $8 guy this time was Jonathan Pierce. He calls himself JSP, and he's got a picture on SureDog with what looks like a white belt on and a gi. But he pulled off a miracle. He beat Kai Kamaka, who I think was undefeated going in, and knocked him out in the second round, 4 minutes and 28 seconds in. So he had to be the MVP there on FanDuel, or somebody else who got the knockout. And again, it was the female fights that you had to have one of the girls in. Gina Mazzani, she beat Rachel Ostrovich by a body kick knockout in the third round, 4 minutes and 10 seconds into that one. And then the first fight of the night, Joseph Nathan Maness beating Luke Sanders by rear naked choke. I did have him on my card in the second round. But I once again went for the main event as my MVP. And if the guy doesn't go 5 rounds and doesn't win by knockout in the first, he won by submission. That's a lot lower points spread. So still learning in that respect, but it is what it is. The big mistake I made was Parker Porter came in against a guy named Josh Parisian. And Parker Porter, I don't know what he was going for price-wise, but Josh Parisian was like up in the $24, $23 range. It's just the high end. So I looked at his record, and I'm like, oh, it makes sense. He had like 3 first-round knockouts in a row. Now, these guys are both pretty much out-of-shape heavyweights as far as gas-wise. But Parker Porter was just a little bit sharper, a little bit less likely to just be throwing arm punches when he got tired. He was, obviously he had some weight on him, but he was a little bit cut in the arms area, so he knew how to throw punches. And Josh Parisian, I guess, just got lucky in those last few fights because he looked horrible in this one, and he did not justify his price at all. So I made the mistake of picking him, and I guess I got to be wary of that because sometimes those people that set the odds don't know a clue about the sport. But sometimes you give those fighters with a lot of the small promotion knockouts a little bit too much credit because they don't have that UFC experience. But Parker Porter also came from the New England area, so it's another edge I should have given him. And Jonathan Pierce, his only loss, speaking of New England, in recent years was to Joe Lazon, New England product, so I should have known not to shortchange him. Anyway, those were the big fights. Also, Norma Dumont beating Ashley Evans Smith by unanimous decision, and Miguel Beza beating Takashi Sato by arm triangle choke in the second round, 4 minutes and 28 seconds in. We had Anderson Dos Santos beating Martin Day by a guillotine choke submission. That was 4 minutes and 35 seconds into round 1. And another surprise win, Sue Mudarji dispatched Malcolm Gordon in just 44 seconds. Knocked him right the heck out. The second fight of the night. So that was one you probably should have had to have to win the big money. And then we go to the one this weekend. We got Hermansen versus Vittori. And this is one I don't know. I really don't know which way to go. I would say Jack obviously has the edge in experience. If you want to do the common opponent math, they fought one guy recently. One guy that they both fought, but Hermansen fought him in 2017, I think, if I remember this correctly. And let me look at it. Yeah. All right. Antonio Carlos Jr., is that the guy? No, Cesar Ferreira. Cesar Ferreira is the guy. Okay, so Hermansen fought him in 2019 and won by unanimous decision. Then you go... No, that's Marvin. That's Marvin Vittori. Fought him in July of 2019, won by unanimous decision. And then it was Hermansen that fought him way back when and lost. Cesar Ferreira, back in 2016, I was wrong. That was at UFC Fight Night 100, Bader versus Nogueira. That was an arm triangle choke submission in the second round. But you got to look at who he's fought since then and beaten. The only guys he's lost to since then were Thiago Santos and Jared Cannonier. He's beaten everybody else, and his last fight was a win against Kelvin Gastelum. So I kind of like not only the experience factor, but the bigger names that he's fought. You go through Vittori, and Cesar Ferreira is one of the biggest names he's fought and beaten, but it was recently. So I don't know if Cesar's fallen off a little bit, or if Vittori's just that good. But Andrew Sanchez is another guy he beat last October. It's past October. And then his last opponent was Carl Roberson. Well, that was actually last October, 2019. October. Carl Roberson was just past June. Rear naked choke submission in the first round, 4 minutes and 17 seconds into that one. And just a basic streak of decisions, wins and losses, and a draw. Up until that submission in his last fight. So I think I like Hermansen in this one. So we'll see how much expensive he is. Let's see if I can win the big money on him. Okay, co-main event, Ovince St. Preux, OSP they call him, 25-14. Go ahead, Tom. Were you going to say something there, buddy?
No.
Oh.
Just listening.
Okay. OSP 25-14, fighting Jamahal Hill, who is 7-0. I don't know anything about him, but that's a big step up for a 7-0 guy. Unless he's like an Olympic champion or something, I don't know about. Gabriel Benitez also on the card. He's 21-8, fighting Justin James, who's 16-5. And we got Taylor Santos, 16-1, fighting Montana De La Rosa, 11-6. Roman Dolidze, 7-0, fighting John Allen, 13-5. Nate Landwehr, 14-3, fighting Movsar Evloev, who is 13-0. Luis Smoka, 16-7, fighting Jose Alberto Quinones, 8-4. Matt Wyman, in the fourth fight of the night, 16-9, fighting Jordan Levitt, who's 7-0. And there's a good name for a fighter, Jimmy Flick, 15-5, fighting Cody Durden, who is 11-2-1. I wonder if his nickname is Tyler. That's the guy from Fight Club, Tyler Durden. Damon Jackson, 18-3 with one draw in the second fight of the night, fighting Ilya Topuria, who's 9-0. And then first fight of the night, Gian Vellante, who is 17-12, fighting Jake Collier, who's 11-5. And that's it. That covers it all. 2 weeks. So, and we talked about guests earlier. We're gonna book up guests for the next 2 weeks. If I can manage it, we're gonna have female guests. We got Tommy Morrison's widow, Trisha Morrison. We got to get her back on the show to talk about the tissue they found that they're going to be retesting and getting admitted to the court case there in Vegas. So we got to do round 2 with her, and then we've got Keisha Morrissey, blast from the past, who we had on years ago, and she's actually friends with Mike Tyson when he was like 16. She knew him, so she goes way back with Mike, and she kind of was talking to me recently. I think she's out in Vegas now. She lives out in Vegas. So I know she's connected to a lot of the music industry people as well as the boxing people. So we got plenty to talk about with her. I think we're going to do her next week, and then Trisha the week after that. So
I remember Keisha from the MySpace days.
Yeah, that's one of the MySpace people. Good interview though. She hooked into politics too. Interesting career she's got going. And she knows a lot of funny, interesting people. So we'll talk to her next week, and Trisha the week after, and we'll start getting some fighters on again. Hopefully, we got some connections to some Bellator people.
And to give you guys a quick laugh before we break for the night, as I said, I try to keep everything as light as can be. right now. We're in some shitty times. And when I do something funny, stupid, or entertaining, which is often, I try to post it on social media. Just to lighten the mood. Too many people write serious shit on social media, especially last month when we had all the election going down and everybody's writing this and writing that and writing this, and I'm like, going into the election, it's like, how does this make you feel? Like, no matter what side you're on. So say you were a very anti-Trump guy, and you go on there and you write like how Trump's this and he's that, and you feel like you're going to go to a protest, and when you're done, what do you do? Then you go home, and how do you feel? What do you feel like you're all big about? I shared something on Facebook, today, saying that I don't like Donald Trump or whatever. Okay, and how does that affect your life? Mm-hmm. How does that make you contribute better to society? And I tell people that. I have one guy, and all he does is just share Facebook shit, but he doesn't do nothing else with his life. But he'll tell you that he's smarter and better than you. And I'm like, if he says, what do? You pump your chest out when you're done. You're like, I called Trump Orange Man today, and that makes me superior. No, it doesn't. I'm just an asshole. So, I'm like, so I try to keep my shit light. So, recently, I started answering spam calls. For the longest time, I would block them, I would deflect them, I would hang up on them, whatever. Well, a few months ago, I was on one of my lunchtime walks, and I was waiting for a call on my cell phone from a hospital that I had called for work. Because I didn't have a work number, so I called from my cell phone. So I'm just finishing my walk, and I got my headphones on. This is the reason I don't use my phone to play music, is because I don't like to be interrupted if I'm really in a groove, especially if my idiot friends are texting me on a chat room for no reason. I'll get interrupted every 2 seconds. So I got my MP3 player on, got my phone in my hand, scrolling the internet, and I'm walking away. Phone goes on, I'm like, Mr. Western PA, where this hospital is, and so let me answer it. Car warranty. Son of a bitch. So I pressed 1 for a representative, and I told him a way he can improve his life, namely by ending it. I might not said it so friendly, I might have said the words fucking kill yourself today, but, whatever. Mm-hmm. So the other week, I usually avoid them. I see other friends that do answer them, and they'll post shit that they say. So my dad answers one. He gets frustrated when he answers one. He goes, I'm going to talk to somebody. We click one, person gets on, they say, tell me the make and model of your car. He goes, you're calling me, you tell me the make and model of my car. Fucking asshole, whatever, and he hangs up on the guy. I laugh, right? So I'm working the other day, and I'm sitting on my laptop. My cell phone has a blocker on it. The home phone doesn't. Phone rings, unavailable number from wherever. So I answer. Click on the button. And 1 for a representative. Tell me the make and model of your car. You're calling me, you motherfucker. You want to know the make and model of my car. Hang up. And I said, no, I botched that. I said, no, I got the next one. Person calls me up. Car warranty. I press 1. What's the make and model of your car? If you guys know where this is from. Mm-hmm. 1964 Buick Skylark convertible metallic mint green paint. You guys recognize it?
No. I don't know where that was from. I just thought it was funny when I saw it.
Maybe you would have recognized it if I said it was a 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
From my cousin Vinny?
My cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
Ralph Macchio and the other guy were driving 64 Buick Skylark, and then the real people that committed the crime were driving the 63 Pontiac Tempest. So I said, metallic 1964 Buick Skylark convertible with metallic mint green paint. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't qualify." I'm like, "I don't fucking qualify to get scammed anymore." Jesus Christ! I said, "Go know yourself." I hang up on him.
Well, that's another thing that's generating a lot of memes. They were going to. I was being overcharged for my electric bill, and they were going to give me a refund. I said, "You're going to give me a refund? Can I have it now?" They're like, "Well, it's a third party that's charging you." I'm like, "Really? Well, when am I going to get paid?" Because I got Christmas time coming up. I want to buy some presents. So can I get my? Are you going to pay me now? Like, are you going to pay me? And I'm fucking this guy's so bad. Like, finally, he's getting pissed off. I'm like, what am I going to do to get my money? Someone's overcharging me. I'll beat their ass. Tell me who it is. I'll kick the little. It's a third party. I'm like, well, find out who they are. I'm going to kick the shit out of them. Oh my god, I'm trying to enjoy this. Yeah, my dad used to do that to the guys that would call telemarketers and stuff.
Yeah.
He used to really get them going. Anyway, till next week, we're going to call it a show. And I know we don't have a lot coming up, but we'll have a guest next week to fill it out.
Yeah.
And we got one good fight at least.
Well, guys, always been a pleasure. Thanks for making me tonight.
All right, guys, go Danny. Make it entertaining Saturday night. I think he will.
Yep. Bet on it.
All right, guys, over and out.